Welcome into the DFS Den. It's Dave Eddy here, aka Corporal Eddy on Twitter, bringing you another divisional round showdown breakdown here. This one is Cowboys against 49ers. I expect this to be a very good game. If you're more used to my videos for, just regular main slate during the season, this is a showdown video. So let me just tell you the differences here real quick in case you're not aware. So in showdown, you've got a captain spot. The captain is going to have 1.5 times the salary of what they'd have in the flex, but they're also going to score 1.5 times as many points. And then you've got 5 flex spots to go ahead and round out the rest of your lineup. So this really comes down to, a lot of correlation, especially with your captain spot since it's so critical. And it comes down to, what you think the game script is going to be and a little bit of game theory as well. So, for me, I think this is going to be a fairly low-scoring game. I think both of these defenses are going to really come to play here. I think you're going to see, I wouldn't say Brock Purdy get exposed at all, but I think you're going to see his worst start. I think this Dallas defense is going to get on him, and I think we're going to see something like a 2017 type game. I do lean towards the Cowboys winning, even though I know 49ers, are the favorite. I just think that that's where the game goes. So kind of want to build my lineups, in that way, even though I think in the end, the 49ers players will end up having, better games than the Cowboys. But I think that the Cowboys pull out the victory. Not that that matters for purposes here. But let's go ahead and talk about the captains I'm interested in here. Chris McCaffrey is going to lead the way for me. I could see 40-50% exposure for me in this spot. He's so valuable. It's like the running quarterbacks. They can get it done so many different ways. McCaffrey's the same. He's just as good of a receiver as he is a running back. And so that just makes him so versatile that no matter what the game script is here, he's very much in play. In a low-scoring game, I can see McCaffrey being leaned on pretty heavily. I like Deebo Samuel as well. Kind of the same thing. He's a guy that gets the ball in a variety of ways. So it makes him a little bit safer, if you will, but has huge play potential, as we saw last week with that, really big touchdown catch and run. I will have some Brock Purdy in at captain. I know I said earlier, I don't think he's going to get exposed, but I think he's going to have a rough game. That being said, I don't think that there's going to be a ton of points here. So I think that actually pumps up the value of quarterback a little bit. And I do like him having a more productive day overall than I do Dak, just as far as points scored here. So I am interested there. I also could honestly see, either team getting out to a lead and the other team having to play a little bit of catch up, even though it's not a huge score. 10-0 lead in a game like this is pretty substantial in my opinion. Dalton Schultz, Tony Pollard, interested there a little bit. Tony Pollard is pretty obvious. He's similar to McCaffrey in the fact that, he can get it done in the air and on the ground, so can't really game script him out. A close game, I think, more benefits Pollard than a game where, the Cowboys are trailing. If the Cowboys are ahead. I can see a little more action going Zeke's way, but so long as they're trailing or the game's close, then Pollard is my guy. And then Dalton Schultz is always pretty interesting. He's got 4 touchdowns combined in the last 3 games, 2 touchdowns in each of the games where he did score. So he's got some potential there to have a pretty big game. So don't mind slipping a little bit of ownership his way. Now, if I am playing a pass catcher, and I'll exclude Christian McCaffrey from that for these purposes, but if I'm playing a Deebo, if I'm playing a Schultz, I'm gonna pair him with their quarterback in the flex. Pollard and McCaffrey, I don't feel like I have to do that. I don't think that because McCaffrey has a big game that, Purdy comes along with him. And I don't think because Pollard has a big game that Dak comes along with him. But if I'm stacking either quarterback here, I'm looking to do so with 2 pass catchers. They're both pocket passers to me. So if they're going to be optimal, even in a low-scoring game, I think I'm preferring to stack them with 2 pass catchers. It's something I'm still considering. I'm definitely willing to drop it down to 1 per because it is going to be a lower scoring game. So I don't think they have to carry 2 pass catchers, but do what you feel is best there personally. That's kind of a personal call for you to make. But as it sits right now, I'm sitting at 2, but I definitely could consider 1. Quarterbacks themselves, I'm going to have more Brock Purdy in this game than I'm going to have Dak. Probably not going to be over, 50% of Purdy. Probably not going to be over 30% of Dak, just because, I really do think that it's going to be a lower scoring game. I think the running back's going to be more involved than usual. There's some really good running backs here. CMC and Pollard are both dual threats, so can see a lot of stuff coming through them. Like I mentioned a minute ago here in the captain spot, if I'm playing Purdy or I'm playing Dak, right now I'm leaning towards forcing 2 pass catchers. I would consider McCaffrey. I would consider Pollard a pass catcher in this case. Running backs don't always qualify, but these 2 guys do. So I could, again, drop that down to 1 because it is going to be a low-scoring game in my opinion. But right now I am sitting with 2. So you do what you think is best there. Running backs, I do like the running backs here, as I've mentioned. I'm really interested in Eli Mitchell. Only $3,000, and he's put up double-digit points in both the games since he's been back. Of course, this is going to rely on him scoring a touchdown probably, but at only $3,000, I think this gets you the savings that you need to, be able to play a lot of CMC, for example. Typically, I don't play more than 1 running back per lineup. In this particular matchup, I am fine on both sides of the ball playing multiple running backs. So I don't mind pairing Mitchell and McCaffrey. I don't mind pairing Pollard and Zeke. Much more likely to pair Mitchell and McCaffrey just because of Mitchell's price. But happy to pair either one. Any combination of these running backs is fine for me. Doubt I would play more than 3. I wouldn't play all 4 of them necessarily. That would be a little difficult, but wouldn't absolutely hate it, to be dead honest with you. But Eli Mitchell's price here is the most interesting thing of all. Alrighty here, wide receivers. Not a huge pool of players I plan on playing. Debo and Ayuk are in play for me. I like both of them. I could see 40-50% ownership there. Lamb and T.Y. Hilton are interesting. Gallup to a little lesser extent, but definitely can, see some Gallup as well. Just at 5,000, he's kind of weirdly priced in my opinion. I mean, I don't mind paying up for Dak at 10-4. I don't mind paying down for T.Y. at 22, but at 5,000, Gallup is a little bit oddly priced. And I think, you pretty much need a touchdown from him for him to be optimal. And being, a 2017 type game, in my opinion, I'm not so sure he's going to score. So that's kind of why I feel the way that I do there. And that's kind of why my wide receiver exposure, is going to be what it is. Tight ends, we do have some decent tight ends here. Dalton Schultz, George Kittle, obviously both very much in play. I talked about how, I may have a couple of shares of Schultz in the captain spot because he does have that touchdown potential. He's got 2 of the last 3 games. He scored over 24 points. Don't expect that to happen, but I can see some passes going his way against this tough Niners defense. George Kittle is, a little more, hit or miss. It wasn't that long ago where he had 3 games out of 4 where he had multiple touchdowns. Did get one last week, but he also has some serious upside. Difference here is George Kittle is 7,600, where Dalton Schultz is only 5,600. I definitely see Schultz having a lower ceiling, but the price difference here to me makes a huge difference. So I could see, 50-60% Schultz in the flex, whereas Kittle's probably going to be limited to like 30 or 40% for me, just because, I really want to play as much McCaffrey here as possible. So it's not so much Kittle hate. It's more, I don't think Brock Purdy's going to have a big game, and I want to play Christian McCaffrey. So just naturally works itself out this way. The kickers here are even more interesting than usual. I personally just am not going to play Brett Maher. I think he's a great kicker. He's been very consistent all year long up until last week. Missed 4 consecutive extra points, 5 consecutive just overall. I'm very nervous about just his mentality, so I'm just going to take him out of the player pool. I do like kickers because they usually score more points than what you expect out of them, and their prices, so that it does afford you, some salary savings as well. But I think I'm just going to be off on Maher. If if Brett Maher is the one who beats me in Showdown, I'll live with it, As far as Robbie Gould is concerned, I don't know, 40% is probably somewhere in the typical neighborhood of where I see a kicker, barring an extreme circumstance. I do expect this to be a fairly low-scoring game, but with, two teams that have some explosive players, I think that if we do see some touchdowns, we could see big plays. And for the most part, it's going to be a plotting type game. So I don't necessarily see either team working its way down the field, getting stopped kicking a field goal. I think we're more going to see big plays. So that's why I'm thinking that. Being that I'm not playing Maher, one kicker max per lineup, even though I'm not going to have any Maher, definitely wouldn't consider Gould for the captain spot here. And then the defenses are kind of similar to me to the kicker, where I think they score more points than you think they can sometimes. The inverse of that can be true as well. Sometimes you've got great defenses against bad offenses, and they don't do nearly as much as you'd think. I really want to like the Cowboys defense here. Again, I think that they're going to give Brock Purdy some trouble. I think Brock Purdy, like I said earlier, going to have the worst game of his career so far, but you don't get the number of sacks from the Cowboys that you expect. They haven't had more than 3 sacks since week 7. And a lot of those games are, 1s and 2s. So they do get a lot of picks, though, but that's not something Brock Purdy does. Brock Purdy doesn't typically throw a lot of picks. And I can see him relying on the running game here, kind of insulating him a little bit. So, I really want to play the Cowboys defense, but when you really look into things, I don't know, even at $4,000, how viable they are as far as being optimal. So I'm gonna slip them in. We're gonna have maybe 15, 20, 25%, but I think that's where I'm sitting. And because I think the Cowboys do win this game, even though Dak Prescott throws interceptions like crazy, and the Niners defense is absolutely phenomenal, I think they're going to be relatively popular. So for me to find a way to get a little bit different, I think I'm going to be definitely underweight on the Niners defense. Probably won't play more than about 10%, just because, you got to find ways to be unique. And I think that not playing Maher, I don't know how unique that is necessarily, but I think that, basically fading the 49ers defense is maybe the best way that I can do that, even though I don't think it's going to have a massive impact, but you kind of got to try something, If you've liked this video or any of the divisional or any of the playoff videos at all, go ahead and drop a like on this. Greatly appreciate that. If you haven't done so yet, pop on over here, subscribe to the channel. Do yourself a favor, turn on the notifications so you get an alert every time a new video comes out. I hope you've been enjoying the playoffs. I hope you win money on this slate, and I'll catch you next time.